last version I've got is Saturday the 22nd of July, 8:20 was it the one that you did, Ian, I think.
That should be version 20.3. I can resend it to you.
No, just...
What did you send it from?
I think I must have sent it from
25 July, yes.
yeah.
25th of July.
Yes. Right. Okay. Well, let me just steam power. The squirrel's woken up, so prod. Right. Okay, folks. Shall we make a start? We've got quite a lot of things to get through.
Yes.
And I suspect we won't finish everything today. I suspect we will need one more meeting. There's quite a few issues came up. Some of them small, some large. First of all then, we got apology from Nick, who's travelling. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. I sent out some draft minutes. Are they all acceptable? I set them out the date of the 20th of July. Are they all acceptable?
I was happy with it.
Yeah, so just fine. Yes, it's fine.
Great, thank you. Public participation, or Christina, are you wishing to speak in advance, or?
Nothing in advance, thank you.
Nothing in advance, things may crop up later, okay. And then it is really now, for the record, we had the Sandwich Town Council meeting on Monday, and we raised a few issues. Prior to that, Emmett and I had met the mayor, and he didn't really raise any issues at all, apart from sitting versus standing.
Yes.
Which we've not put in the standing orders or the sitting orders, whichever you prefer to call them. So he was quite content with it. So really the only issues we've got then are matters that have been sent to us.
Yes.
Now, Councillor Ungerson mentioned a few points there. I have not received her email. No, this is what I mean. It's something silly going with emails. I received one, but that was sort of another issue. I haven't received one. She sent one yesterday afternoon.
I see. I mean, the minute she made, the comment she made in the meeting, I noted down.
You did, yes.
Put in an email.
Right.
I don't know, I haven't seen any.
I thought, well, she said to me that you haven't received anything. I think she said something under all councillors.
Oh, right.
Yes, so I'm aware.
You haven't got one either.
No, and Mark Morehouse said the same, that he thought he'd sent something this morning to all councillors. None of us have got it.
Okay.
I've got marks.
You've got marks.
Right.
Lynn's had nothing, so there is an issue somewhere. Okay.
So we're just picking things off an easy thing. If you've got marks, could you just send it to us free? Then
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I
No, you
had
haven't.
it on my tablet. This isn't on Gmail account.
No, it wasn't that easy.
Well, I've dropped a note to the town.
I think Mark concentrated on the dress code.
Yes.
Yes.
And on standing.
Yes.
Yes. Well, shall we?
I personally feel the dress code is unwarranted in standing orders, but I don't know what others think.
Well, shall we go through? Let's. The longest single one I've received so far is from Councillors Marie and Franklin. Should we run through that first? So that's this one here. Some of which I don't think are standing orders.
No.
Standing orders, well, okay. So if we look at 30, do you want to pull up the?
I'm struggling to find kind of the version that you referred to. The latest version, as I said, that I've got, that I can find,
Right.
is the one from the 22nd of July.
Right. You got a USB port handy?
He just happens to have.
Got a USB port handy?
Yeah.
Right. I'll tell you when. The shoes come up with a little marker. It's called, I think it's called the big one, or
Right.
there are big in.
Right.
Click on that.
Yeah. Other STC papers,
Just
working group.
go to working group, and then you should find on finals,
That's a brilliant idea.
and then you should find draft standing orders.
Check it with it.
Yeah.
Draft standing orders version 20.3.
That's the one. There we go.
Great.
We're in business.
Well done.
It's called Don't Trust Anybody Else's Technology Except Your Own, because you know it'll work. So that should just, that's the
Okay.
one.
Right.
Do you want to save a new version which then allow you to do track changes? Or rename that, yes, save a new version. And do you want to save it on yours or on mine?
Yeah, no, I'll save it on mine.
Good. Anyway.
So today is the 3rd of August.
It is.
2023. Just in case we'll still be here on the 3rd of August 2023.
I'm going to hold you to your prediction that we could have done it.
No, you misquote me.
Chairman's prerogative. And by the way, we are called, there are 4 councillors present. Let's
Yes.
let anybody challenge that.
When is Nick?
I think it's something like 16th or 17th.
Yes.
He's travelling around. He's got to go to Italy and Spain, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all to do with his books that he's written. You think he's written a few about sailing?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's a very keen yachtsman. Right. Okay. Ready to rock and roll, are we? No, of course. Now you've got my memory stick. I can't pull it up here. Do you want to reject? Oh, that's it there. That's fine. Well, the first one I've got is from Councillors Murray and Franklin. Items 3.1, which was we didn't mention the deputy mayor at all, did we? We only said the mayor should not automatically be the right, and that each committee will elect a chair. It did say vice chair, so I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So Claire was slightly off centre as well because she started commenting on it, and I didn't want to. So it's very clear. Committees will elect a chair and vice chair, who shall hold office. Well, so what are our views? There is the suggestion from 2 councillors that the mayor should automatically be the vice chair. From the responses I've had from other committee chairs, they say no. So we have a 2-to-1 majority to say no, they should elect their own vice chair.
I think it was also interesting that Mary himself didn't intervene in that debate.
Yes.
Okay.
So my perspective would be, I know some of the comments there relate to the person, and this standing orders are not about individuals and skills or skills they don't have. The standing orders should apply for the council. So I think we have to start from that perspective. So the fact that the current mayor may have some skills that were suggested should be applied across the board. There'll be a different mayor at a different time, so
Yes.
the orders should stand. But we've got two camps. The greater camp probably is saying actually the deputy mayor doesn't inherit that role automatically. So you have two options. I think is either you present the paper with what we currently have as a draft when it goes for the final approval. Secondly, you call it out and you have it as a separate question for the council to decide with our recommendation. It's one or the other, I think. Because I think I'm happy with it as it stands, but not everybody is.
Not everybody is, but what's the view? Peter, do you have a view?
Sorry, but I don't agree with kind of the comments that kind of came in. I think what we've drafted at 3.14 is the way that we should proceed. I think it's the best order. They also made a comment on 3.1 that we should go back to.
Yeah.
I support the current wording on 3.1.
Yeah.
Okay, from this meeting, it's a unanimous view, and I can confirm that Nick was of the same view. It's a historical legacy, I think, from previous year. So 3.14 stands. Okay, it's a majority view from chairs and also from this meeting.
You know, the other important point for me is that our current mayor is working. He's not available during normal business hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we've got planning committee meetings and so forth, you know, there are quite a number of meetings, and I think it would be put an unreasonable burden on the mayor
That was
to expect him to attend
That was
all
my
of
point
all
about
of these meetings.
when the core responsibilities of the mayor are what need to be protected.
Yes, the point was made that the mayor should be able to keep himself fully informed of what's happening in each committee, but he or she is quite able to do that, in my view, without necessarily attending each meeting.
It's up to them. They are ex officio a member of each committee, but that's not the same. And it is up to the committee. They feel, yes, we'd like the mayor to be the vice chair. That's entirely up to the committee.
And as you quite rightly say, 3.13 guarantees that in the standing orders that they are a member of each committee.
Okay. Now, also he's raised in 3.1, which is probably 3.11. He's trying to say the mayor puts the right council and the right committees every year to make sure everyone's expertise is taken into account. I don't think many of us necessarily agree with that. Their expertise was taken into account.
I was quite comfortable with how we approached it this year, in the sense that there was a proposal about committees, but we had a discussion at town council about whether that was right or not for individuals. Surely it's about collaboration. It isn't about being told which committees you'll be on, because that only leads to I think some people feeling actually they're on the wrong committee or they've missed out on the committee they want to be on. So I think it should be a dynamic process, and I think that allows that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, and I'm concerned that it says the mayor, so we would need to change the second word there from the council to the mayor. I think it's the council's decision as to who goes on committees, because otherwise it's giving the mayor too much authority over all of the committees.
Yeah,
very valid.
I think that's correct. It is the council that decides. Obviously, the mayor has a major role in that and may well propose together with the town clerk. But they should take account of as many views as possible. And there are.
So can I ask? So are you going to respond on behalf of this working group, Ian, to councillors Franklin and Marie?
What would you want me to do, folks? I mean, on one hand, it'll come up at the August meeting, and we hope that it gets past the August meeting. And obviously, I'll draw attention to it.
Yes.
And but I can as a matter of courtesy, and I think I prefer the courteous route, which sort of says, we have discussed it, here is the majority view of this committee is X. Christina?
I think on a technicality it is the council because it's done by resolution and it's done by the resolution of the council.
Yep.
It's not something that's imposed outside of that process, is it?
No.
So on a technicality I would have thought that council is more accurate. But I did want to make a request where it says annual town council meeting, and it says that a couple of times there in 311 and 314. Some people get confused between the annual town meeting and the
Yeah.
annual meeting of the council.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering if that wording could be a little bit more distinctive. So if we're talking about the annual meeting of the council, if we actually use those words, because annual town council meeting actually
Yes,
sounds
yeah.
very similar.
And that's more of a public
To-
participant.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
whereas
still
the annual meeting of the town council is a statutory requirement.
the annual meeting of the well, they both are, I believe, but they're separate meetings.
Yeah.
But the annual meeting of the council
Yes.
is
So
the
that
one
makes-
at which this particular
Yeah,
activity would
yeah,
take
that's right.
place.
Okay, fine, thanks for that.
Suggestion?
Okay.
But
Capital
is
M.
the annual meeting of the council a defined term and should be in capitals?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And it's,
Council. Yeah.
and we've got an of missing. Annual meeting of the council.
You know what the off?
Yeah, of the council. And
Don't want that in capitals. The of the.
no, of the
No,
don't
no,
need to be in capitals. No, it's the meeting is in capitals and the annual and the council are in capitals.
It's often abbreviated as AMC. So.
No, please.
No,
No
not
more.
here, not here, but and then and there as well.
Right, okay, so we need to change all of this, thank you. Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing now. Then,
Okay.
yes, content? Yeah. Okay. The next one is, right. Okay. Right. Is 412. Sorry, when you're ready, Peter. I thought that was a huge bit of damp just up there, but it's the electrical sockets, the end of that beam. If you look at it from the roller, it looks like a huge damp patch, but it's not a damp patch.
No.
Okay, so we're going because there was comments on 336, but we're going to
From
Claire Ungerson.
okay, could I suggest we go through each
Yes.
separate contributor
Yes, okay.
and then come back to it? Okay, right. 412 is the next one.
412.
Right. The point is, apart from filming from the housebound, which is incorrect, anyone who wishes to film a council meeting shall seek permission from the town clerk or the full council to make sure the council is not held in disrepute. We don't have a legal power to do that. Any person can film the meeting in its entirety and they don't need to ask for permission, do they?
That's correct.
And that's what, yeah, well, that's what the
So this
legislation.
412 is statutory, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
Yes.
A person who attends the meeting is permitted to report on the meeting or the meeting. To report means to film, photograph or make an audio.
Yeah,
Well, that's-
exactly.
That's true. To bring us into disrepute. So you brought us into disrepute, have you, Christina?
I don't bring you into disrepute.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
down
film
to
what
us.
happens.
That's our job.
It's down to us.
That's our job, isn't it? To bring ourselves into disrepute.
Okay.
422, again, they don't understand things involved. 422, which is the annual meeting, will be held. It's 422.
Yeah, that's.
It said at no other time, annual meeting shall take place at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Again, that's statutory.
Yeah, so we can't
So
change.
422 is
I
statutory.
did say that at the meeting.
Oh, I know.
You did, Peter, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we. Now, it's up to the council, of course, to decide about the meeting time for other meetings as well.
Yes.
Which, have we said anything anywhere in the standing orders that they will normally start at 7?
No, I don't
No,
think
we
we should.
haven't.
Don't need to. It's,
I don't think, exactly. I mean, then it does say, if no other time is fixed.
yes.
Yes,
So we have perfect flexibility.
Yeah. that applies to the annual meeting, but what about the normal town council meetings? I mean, why do we bother, Christina?
It was agreed by resolution early 2022 that the full council meetings would be at 7 and the committee meetings at 6:30. And they used to be earlier, and
It used
this
to be
was
at 6 o'clock, and that caused a lot of problems, didn't
yes, it was, and some committee meetings took place during the day, and so people who worked just weren't able to attend. So really, they were moved to the evening in order to improve accessibility.
Do we want to say anything in a non-statutory part of the standing orders that
I think we should.
other council meetings will normally start at 7 p.m. and
Yes.
committees will normally start at 6:30.
Well,
Well, that's the current resolution. I don't know whether that's why one is 6:30, one is 7. I have no idea.
sorry, I don't. I mean, firstly, I don't see any need to put it in standing orders. Secondly, if we do, I don't understand the reason why committees should start 30 minutes earlier than a full council meeting. I think
There is a reason.
there is an advantage
Yeah.
in having all meetings
At the same time.
in the evening, where we need to accommodate people who work, obviously. So I fully agree that meetings should be held where possible in the evening, but I don't think that we need to set a time. Yeah.
The 6:30 was a compromise. I believe my impression of the meeting when it took place was that there was a desire to move meetings to 7 o'clock. However, there were members who felt that actually that was quite late, and so it became 7 o'clock for full council, and the compromise for committees was to make that at 6:30 so that they could finish earlier.
So,
Excuse me, my view is that when a committee is set up and the committee elects a chairman or a chair, the committee themselves should decide what time to hold the meetings,
Yeah.
because it doesn't suit people, you know, that given the kind of the demography of the people who are on, you know, we shouldn't be meeting here at 11 a.m. We would have to meet at 6:30 in the evening, which is so. And as far as I'm concerned, how do you define a committee? Because a working group could be considered to be a committee. So I think each committee should have the freedom to agree, provided they get a quorum at the meeting.
Christina?
There was no timing set for working groups at all. It was only the standing committees and full council. There was no agreement with regard to working groups.
Well, I don't see that there is a need to have any agreement other than comply with the statutory requirements.
And be silent.
And, you know, I think when you look at the current council, I think there's only about a quarter of the council are actually in full-time employment.
yes, exactly.
So, you know, that makes life very difficult for the
Yes,
rest of
but
the
then
rest of the
Okay, so
councillors.
we stay silent on it, but we just remind them that this is a statutory arrangement and will not be changed. Okay?
Well, I think you could point out that the text gives us the flexibility to fix another time.
Yeah, it does, that as well, yes.
Yes, it can change, but have flexibility. Right, now, I think they're proposing, could you toggle down to 431, please? That leaves you. Now, the suggestion is all quarterly town council meetings be held with councillors in robes as in tradition. I would stay silent on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a statutory, that's a behaviour that it's not, it's not a,
I don't think anything to do with dress is appropriate
Exactly.
in standing orders, but I do think it's up to the mayor if he wishes, she wishes, to give informal guidance, if you like. I mean, they may like a certain style, but you can't impose it on people what they wear. So,
I don't think you can at all. Alright, so I'll reply to that, okay. 454, please, and they don't like the reference to his, they don't like there, but unfortunately 454 is statutory.
Yeah.
Why don't they read?
Although I think it's valuable that people have read it and they are giving us comments, and this is the whole point about its working group, is working through those. So,
yeah.
I agree with that a bit, yeah.
I agree, and I think the contributions in terms of collective memory are also quite important.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
none of us has been on
No,
council.
but when we made it,
Shouldn't this S there be a full she, he, they, not
where
just
is
the
that?
S?
Sorry,
It should, you're right. So there was some value in reviewing how
is she, he, they is the
Right.
secretary.
No, Peter, it may well be. It depends what, if it's a direct lift, then they'll have done it on the basis that she or a he can be interchangeable. That's, we just put the S. Well, that's very true. They've just put the S. Just put the S. Identified it could be a she or a he by adding the S, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Okay. It doesn't change the scheme of the thing that it could be, whatever the person's orientation is.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. 513. They think the timing for public participation is too long and should stay at 15 minutes, and should be either 3 speakers of 5-minute time or 4 speakers of 3-minute time. As well as persons who wish to speak should give a copy of their speech to the town clerk prior to the meeting and not be repetitive, i.e. the same item that spoken about last meeting. And to allow other people to speak, one person should not speak more than 4 times a year. We did discuss this with the mayor, didn't we?
We did, and he was supportive.
He was supportive of up to 4 people in 20 minutes.
Yeah. So my reference would be, we've just recently seen the Sandwich community newsletter's gone out, and I thought it was really good to see actually we as a council are featured in 2 articles. So I've congratulated the town clerk on that, because actually we do need to get the message out and our story, and that's really good. But what's within there are the 10 commitments that were given at the annual council meeting with the public, and one of those commitments is improving how we engage with residents. This is a clear demonstration of that for me. It's only 5 minutes extra onto the slot itself, but it gives people, as we've already said, 3 minutes doesn't work for everybody. So that's my point, is actually we're demonstrating here that we are engaging better with our residents and allowing, and the reality is not every slot gets used every time.
No. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I think you can discuss all the variables for a long time, but I think what we put in there is a fair summary of the direction that we should head. I think the chair has to retain some discretion, but I do think it opens up a bit the possibility of public engagement in the meeting. I do think we need to take on board the repetition issue,
Yes.
and I think I think something along the lines suggested, like people should be limited to 4 times.
4 times doesn't seem unreasonable to me. It
But-
was 2 times.
So why are we here? We are here to represent the residents of Sandwich.
Yes.
We have some residents who actually do want to engage with the council. I would find it very difficult to say actually the shutters are down for you. We've had one speaker, a lady who's come a couple of times around crime. I found that really valuable input, and if she came 8 times in the year, I wouldn't have an issue with that, so long as what it didn't was exclude others
Exactly.
who have only come once. So there may be a halfway ground that actually is part of the prioritising. You look at the number of times the person's come, and then the subject matter, repetition. Because I think actually it's not about making the door more difficult to get through, it's about us managing the business, is what I would prefer.
Right. Other views? Peter, do you have a view on this?
I do have some sympathy with the point that Colin raised about people speaking,
On the same.
too many times, and so I think there's an opportunity. We've listed the order of priority, and we can put at the bottom of the list of priority residents who have spoken 3 or more times
Okay.
in any 1 year,
Sorry.
or whatever number of times that that we want. And I do think, yes, we do want to engage with the community, and I do think that if a resident has got something which is of community interest, well then other people within that network that are affected by that point should speak. It should not just be one person.
I think the difficulty is, I think part of this is a legacy from previous administration where this person asked the same question every single meeting because nobody gave her an answer.
Well, then there's that as well.
That is exactly it.
Whereas we're saying, well, you have to give an answer, even if the answer is, well, I'm handing it to the town clerk, to Councillor Pennington and everything else. It is a difficult one. I'm a bit more inclined to put it in a priority rather than absolute. I understand your point about it should not be an absolute shutter clanging down.
Yeah, so if you put it this, so just turn it on its head. If we do, in my experience, but I think Martin's pointed in the past that maybe sometimes they have actually been oversubscribed, but so far, under this council, 4 times or so we've met, we have never used all slots, and sometimes we've had to use no slots.
Yeah.
So why would we want to say to an individual, actually you've been 3 times this year, or this is your last chance this year, when we're talking about a 12-month span? I really do struggle with that, because we're here to represent residents. It can be managed correctly through the prioritisation, rather than there being a hard line. You've been 4 times in the first half of the year, you can't come until next year.
Peter, could you try to do some wordsmithing on that outside the meeting?
Or can I?
Sorry, Martin.
I just want to say, for me to put it in the criteria is fine. We did incidentally also in Westgate have one lady who spoke every week.
Right.
So it's not
A frequent flyer.
But even that, sorry, and maybe I'm just too relaxed. The same person I come to these meetings, and you're here every time. You're here every
There's
time.
a slight difference.
It's just
Council Tucker, there is a slight difference.
Sorry. People have value to bring to us. They want to talk to us.
Yeah.
But
we need to manage that.
we need to manage it, and not to the exclusion of other people.
No, exactly.
I felt this, in Westgate, this person's contribution was useful because she was really representing a voluntary organisation which was contributing to the welfare of the town.
Okay.
So the fact she came
Regularly.
every meeting and wanted to tell us what was going on, for me that was permissible.
Yes, it's a difficult one to put any kind of guidance on that.
Yeah.
You'll be writing a sort of an essay on what is acceptable. But could we
So just give me the guidance again. 'Cause
well, I
I've
think
done
we would
myself.
say along the lines of if number 7 would be, or it's either number 6 or number 7, it would be a person who has already spoken 4 times in the 12-month period.
I would say I wouldn't be that specific. The number for me then becomes a debate about is it 4 or is it 2. So on repeated occasions or on numerous occasions is probably a good
On the same
word.
topic.
I
I
mean,
mean, the issues
these
are
are
the same.
criteria to let people speak, not
Yeah.
to
Prevent them speaking.
not to
Yeah.
not to
So
downgrade
you
their
can
contribution
switch
as
it.
well.
So if it's the first, if the person hasn't spoken previously, then they should be a priority, I think.
Yes.
Peter, have we given you enough answers?
Yes, but you know,
We could
residents who have not previously
Yes.
spoken at the
Yeah.
meeting,
Yes.
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah. We span 360 degrees there. So that's always good.
Alternatively, you've lost the magnetic north and your compass is spinning round and round.
For me, that's
That's fine, actually.
Yeah.
That sums it up well, actually. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
I think leave it at that. The only other thing we have in this area is the town clerk met Emmett and myself at this meeting at the end, and she said, it is the case at Westgate she has to stand at the door and say, well, do you want to speak? Right, you're number 2, you answer. With a larger organisation, she did say, look, I am unhappy about getting absolutely no prior notification that someone wants to speak. We thought a compromise, and that's purely us, that's not this committee yet,
Yeah.
is something like noon on the day of the meeting, that she had to be contacted by phone or email by noon on the day of the meeting. And again, it's still up to the chair has discretion still to say, okay, yes, this is a very late one, but something has just suddenly cropped up.
Yeah.
They've just decided to, they're going to close Richborough anyway,
Yeah.
kind of thing, which is then extremely urgent.
Yes.
Would that, how do you folks feel about that? Is noon too restrictive? Because Jill was really concerned about it.
So I think you have to listen to the town clerk, and she sees the value in managing who's permitted to speak, and for me that would be sensible.
Okay, are we
I agree.
in agreement? Peter, any views?
well, obviously, A here, which I've highlighted, kind of addresses that, and we're just saying at the moment, you're ahead of the start time of that meeting. So if we're going to say 6 hours ahead of the start time of that meeting, or 7 hours ahead of the start time of that meeting, would be what I would
Yes.
Right,
Because
because that's
the
good,
meeting-
yeah.
Yeah, the meeting time can
It's
vary.
the meeting time, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
So do we want to go 6 or 7 hours or something like that?
So it's technically 7 hours if it's noon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's noon till that's what I said.
So we've accepted that the meetings will be held in the evenings.
Yeah.
So I think we can go with 12 noon. I know it means for one meeting might be half an hour shorter time span, but 12 noon is a definite.
Okay. 12 noon then, 12 noon? Martin, you concerned?
For full council meetings, yes.
What would you think we want to do? Why would you not have a different arrangement for committees?
Well, because we don't have I mean, even here, we go through the agenda including public participation. So
Yes, we do.
I think as long as it's an official council
Yeah.
meeting,
I'm comfortable with that.
we need to allow for flexible starting times.
We didn't explore the difference between council meetings and committee meetings, did we?
We didn't.
With the clerk.
We didn't. So could we not propose that it is back to what originally was put in there, that it's ahead of the meeting for full town council meetings? This will be noon. To be just for that particular event. I think it's a good point, Martin. So I think you need to be a little bit more flexible with committees.
Okay, thank you for that. But we are unanimous to view the 20 minutes, and the mayor was content with 20 minutes. He was very content.
Yeah.
I thought we'd have a lot of the discussion. He said, no, that's good, yes, carry on with that. And, okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, he said at the last meeting, this is my favourite point on the agenda.
He says it every week, every month.
It
I
does.
assume that was a genuine comment. But I agree with Emmett. I think it's important to make some kind of statement in relation to what we are doing. It is, of course, not the only thing we are doing in terms of
No, it's not.
engagement
It's not.
with the wider community, but it's a
And there's more to
clear and visible sign that we are trying.
Okay.
So I said for full town council meetings, this shall be noon on the day
of the
Of the
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah.
Right, okay, that's fine. So that's 513A. Okay.
All right, just while we're on this, if I may just be as bold as to break the flow of item D, where it says speakers are encouraged to give a copy of their speech to the town clerk, either before the meeting at the end, to facilitate clear minuting of the matter. I would suggest that those minutes or that speech should be included as part of the minutes of the meeting, because at the moment I don't feel that, other than maybe making a note of the subject, the points raised are really covered in the minutes. I don't know what other people feel.
Sure.
I think that's an excellent point. We do see in the standing orders a requirement that the content of public participation
Is noted.
is recorded in the minutes. It would be an awful lot easier for the town clerk if a simple reference can be made in the minute to
attach
the document annex so and so.
Good idea. Let's run with that. Run with that. Okay. Paper part of the minutes.
I think somebody said there shouldn't be a requirement, and it's not a requirement.
Are encouraged, it says.
Yeah.
Encouraged. Yeah, okay, because some people will not do that, and others throw their paper at the mayor. That was a bit pointless.
The only provisor is that the mayor should have some degree of reasonable censorship as to what is in the written.
I'm thinking of for abusive language or something.
Well,
like that,
yeah,
or
maybe there are
length.
kind of abusive language, or
well,
maybe it's incited, or maybe there is personal information in it.
Okay,
that
so
could be
you need some redaction.
redacted, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
The town clerk shall edit the
for legal compliance,
yeah.
the town clerk should edit this for our legal compliance.
In such cases, so we want to make, in such cases, the copy of the speech is to be attached to the minutes of the meeting.
Yep.
The town clerk may edit the notes
Yeah.
for
Legal compliance.
legal.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's making it clear that you're not accepting personal abuse or personal information, but you're not seeking to alter the content of the meeting.
Yeah.
Of the point. Okay.
And just
Right.
very quickly,
Which-
we've used before the meeting here, maybe if we just go back to A, wasn't it? Used before rather than ahead. Sorry, we used before as before at the start time of the meeting. So in A,
Right.
penultimate line.
Yeah.
First words used before.
Yeah,
Just for consistency. So in A,
Yeah.
the second from last line, first words, change that.
Well,
Just take out ahead of and put before the start of the meeting, because that's what we'll use later on. It's simpler to understand as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Thank you. Right, we're moving on. When you're ready. 454.
454.
454 or 54? 454?
Well, that's
Well,
really.
this could be 545. Is it 545?
I don't know. 4, 5. Oh no, they don't like this. They don't like their his, her, there.
No, we've had that. We've done that.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't. Not that particular one. We had she.
She, he, they.
Oh.
Yeah, he doesn't like this. And the answer is it's statutory.
Yes.
We're not changing it. We can't change it anyway.
I don't like it either, but
Well,
I think it's, I fully appreciate the motives, but I
Yes.
just find it very inelegant the way it's done.
well, it's
But we're stuck with it. So.
we're stuck with it. We're stuck with it. Yeah. It's when you get asked as a blood donor and obviously male and everything else, do you think you might be pregnant? And this caused a hoo-ha in Scotland because a medic refused to answer that question and he got chucked out of the blood donations clinic. Yes, because he refused to answer the question. Yeah, okay. 513. Oh, we're done 513, sorry. 515. Can we see 515, please? Yeah, members of the invited. Oh, this should be removed from standing orders as we elected members are there to speak to the residents' behalf and bringing things to debate at full council meetings. What do we want to say? Basically, they don't like that at all.
So I'm not sure the reference, why that's been, I don't know the reference point that's encouraged that comment to be made. I don't know the background, is what I'm trying to say. But in terms of what's there, it's still at the discretion of the chair.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's also to reinforces your point about public participation.
I didn't want to bore you with that one again.
we can take it. We can take it. It's public participation, and it's at the discretion of the chair. And you may be missing out some expertise. Yeah.
Additional information.
Yeah. Right. That's 5 to 3. Right. Page 5. Now, this is a lecture to us now. New councillors need to learn and understand that a full council is a meeting in public, not a public meeting. And if anyone wishes to speak, that should do so in the public participation part. If this is allowed, the council meeting will go on a lot longer than they already are. That's their reasoning, as well as the fact that they are elected to, or we are elected to represent the public. I think our view, correct me if I'm wrong, is precisely that it's in the spirit of public participation. It gathers additional information and it is at the discretion of the chair, so it's not going to be every day. Okay.
And sometimes it's reasonable to have a new set of eyes looking on things.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I think we'd all agree that, and it's the other bit is the expertise, the specialist expertise somebody may have.
I've heard it before.
436. We're jumping about a little bit, sorry,
Oh,
this is
okay.
from that. All council meetings should be a maximum of 3 hours rather than 2 hours.
Again, I can't, there's no backing up of why.
No. If it wanted to go over, the vote should be made either to stop the meeting and reconvene, deferral of the rest of the agenda meeting. Christina?
I think the statutory limit might be 3 hours, but 2 hours is the best practice.
I think
Yes.
I do remember. I've actually read the NELC thing, and I was like, a strange life. And I think now recommend 2 hours. I don't think they insist, but they now do in their guidelines suggest 2 hours.
I find the 3-hour meeting has negative consequences. People get too tired.
I agree.
And more prone to be aggressive in some cases. I think if the meeting has an agenda which is going to last far more than 2 hours, then we should consider having a separate meeting.
And in some ways I think there's a debate to be had about whether we do run STC and STBF back to back.
I also had that in mind because it blurs the.
It does, and the second meeting doesn't get the same
I
focus.
believe strongly we should have STBF meetings every quarter.
That's a good idea, because that's a really good idea, because one of the things I'm concerned about is how we give grants out, and it's not just my view. I can hear it from others. If you manage to do that on if you manage that on a quarterly or even a half-yearly basis, then actually you're taking what's emerged over that period of time and making the right calls, rather than here's the next one, yes or no, and then the money just does wither on the vine very quickly.
Yeah, we had a system of call in Westgate, a system of like a call for proposals, which ran I think January to March, but it was intended that those would be proposals funded under the coming year's financial allocation, and we just had the allocation. We chose the ones that we considered priority, and that was that.
Okay. Did you?
Well, I agree with the comments that Martin has made about meetings should run for 2 hours because people get tired and so forth. I would also say that from a health and safety point of view, one of the most dangerous things that we do is sit. And it's important to get, you're rocking on your chair. I'm sorry, Martin, you just rocked on your chair. You're not sat at 90 degrees in your chair. We all do it, and I'm not criticising you, but it's not good for us. So from a health and safety point of view, the length of the meetings should be restricted, and I think it's important that the town clerk schedules the correct things on the agenda. And personally, I feel that there are too many trivia items. We go through all of this rigmarole about payments and so forth, when we should have a summary statement at town council level, and that should all be delegated to the Finance and General Purposes Committee. We have all of this, who can do the bank account and the timeline, and who
that should be done offline.
All of these things should be dealt, and for me this council deals with too many trivia type items that should be dealt with at a lower level, at committee level, and the committees, when they're appointed, the people on the committees, the council should trust those people to endorse the payments or whatever. And finally, I would say, we're talking about the rules for Sandwich Town Council. Do these rules apply to the Town Council Toll Bridge Fund?
No, they don't.
No.
And this is quite a separate issue. Could I interrupt for just a moment? Christine, did you want to make a point specifically?
Only what's already been said.
Okay, so the note, sorry?
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
It struck me at the last meeting, other councils that I have been told of are much more based on the work of committees, and all the items that come to a full council meeting are matters that have been discussed in committee and result from the committee's work. And some councils only meet in full councils once a quarter, because every meeting is just more or less the outcome of the work that the various councillors have done in committee, and that kind of culture doesn't exist here. I fully support. I was frankly quite surprised at the infrequency before I joined and after. of financial general purposes
Yes.
committee meetings,
And-
because I do
yeah.
feel they could be far more, what can I say?
I think
They're
They
far
can
more
cover
of
an
a
awful lot
focus
of
point.
detailed work,
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
say, that doesn't
They,
need to
they
come.
should be the people that should be doing
Yeah.
the general scrutiny, and when it's a matter which is outside of their powers, that's what they bring
Yeah.
to a full
So-
council.
And I, from my perspective, I agree with you, Martin, in the sense that we have some. What happens is when people will get drawn to things that are easy to deal with, things that they're possibly personally really interested in. But we are a group of councillors. We have some significant budgets to manage, but we also have some significant issues with those budgets. And until we actually open our eyes as a council and deal with the budget issue through the Finance and General Purposes Committee, make some clear decisions about how we're going to make sure the finances are run correctly, we are not serving sandwich properly. Because all we're doing is we're burying our heads in the sand about things we've inherited. But by doing nothing, we become the owners rather than the inheritors.
Okay,
I,
can I, Peter, and then I'll have
Just a couple of things on that. I agree entirely with the finance and general purposes, and I'd like to say I've sent a list of 14 agenda items that I believe the Finance and General Purpose Committee should review. Important things like the health and safety aspects of
yes.
not just the buildings but our employees. We should have a subcommittee looking at health and safety. There are all of the other things from finance and HR and management accounts, and those 4 things should be discussed every month at finance and general purposes. And then there's a whole raft of other things, whether it's insurance or property or antiquities or assets or whatever, that should be discussed. And this council, in my mind, needs to have certain discipline about reviewing things in total, not just reviewing things because people feel comfortable about reviewing those items. They should have a broad-reaching agenda that covers every aspect of council business, including the audits and scrutiny that we need to do as ourselves. And in terms of the council meeting, I think we should put in the council, if a committee wishes to make a report to the council, they should prepare a proper report and not send in pages of minutes and ask for approval by the council of the minutes when the minutes may not even have been approved by the people who attended the meeting themselves.
This
I think it
reflects in part.
reflects
Claire was
really
saying.
badly on the chair of the working group, and that's, I commend you because you submitted a report, for the standing order working group which went to the council.
But isn't that what you?
That's what working groups and
I think we're all
committees
used
should
to
do.
that. Can I just bring this bit to a conclusion there, folks? I have to keep on saying this. We're here to discuss
Yes, we are standing orders.
But the standing order should include what,
Well,
or cover what I'm just saying.
can I make a suggestion? In 436, we started with 436. We still want to retain
Yes, we do.
the 2 hours,
We do.
and this is also because of NALC advice, it's health and safety,
Health and safety.
but it is up to the council. I think then I'm going to produce a separate note, I would suggest, unless you say otherwise, which says the following items are not really part of standing orders, but are critical to the way this council does business. And they are, why have you got the Tollbridge Fund immediately after the council meeting, and when people are already weary and so on?
Yeah.
Secondly, what do we need all of this detail that accumulates on the normal meetings, because a lot of it you think, get on with it. Thirdly, there's the issue about the frequency of the meetings and how much detail. So we're thinking that things like the F&GP perhaps should meet more frequently. And then finally, we're saying that there should be far more specific reports to a council to say, we need approval for this, or we really recommend you take action on that, rather than waiting for the minutes. Now, does that cover the discussion?
The council will only consider reports to specific reports to the council.
Yeah.
So if I, sorry.
So I'll come back to the scene.
Very quickly, if I was back in my workplace and we had a significant issue with the finances, we would have an extraordinary meeting and we would only focus on that. We wouldn't squeeze it into a more general meeting. We would get the right people in the room and we would make the right decisions and then communicate that outwards. What we're doing at the moment is we're actually ignoring a really big issue as far as I'm concerned. However, let's not forget we've had pandemic, we've had Ukraine war, and that all impacts things like earnings to the Tollbridge Fund. So we have to look at things in a longer time span in terms of how performance has been. But we know today we are eroding that budget.
Yeah, well, sorry, just on that, if I may, I don't know where we're going from here in terms of the standing orders, but I was particularly put out that the other night we were asked to approve monies which at the previous council meeting we were told we were out of budget.
Yes.
And yet it went through the other night without any consideration to the budget.
Without a photograph.
And we bought something without a photograph. We bought a pig in a poke, as I said,
Well,
at the time. But from my point of view, I think that we should say that any request for funding brought for council approval should have a statement of against the budget,
so do you want
which
to
is
make that
something I
standing
asked
order?
for in the very first council meeting I attended.
Do you want to make that standing order though?
I do. I think it absolutely is, because then if it is a standing order, we can reject it under the point of standing orders.
So
It would come up in the financial regulation anyway, I think.
Yes.
It should come up in both, for consistency.
okay, I've got a note of that. You and I perhaps need to talk offline as to where we put it in this document. But are we content if I say 436 retain? However, I will do a separate note at the end of these minutes, and we'll take that back to the council when we do our next report, saying that we are concerned about a whole number of things which are not currently in standing orders. Mind you, we have said we should be reviewing the remit of each committee, and I think these are items that are specific to that, and so on. Christina, you wanted to say
Yes.
something?
There is a document which is the terms of reference of the standing committees
Yes.
and the schedule of delegations,
Yes, and we've
which
got
is perhaps the next document that matches on to.
That's
It
right.
picks up a lot of the points that you're raising.
And that's what we put on the report, saying these are the next items. It's item 7, I think, on our report. 6 or 7 on our report. Okay, right. But we want to say that if there's a request for funding or purchase, it must be accompanied by the current budget report.
Yeah.
And other evidence, e.g. photo, whatever. Yeah, I was not very happy about the ring purchase.
I wasn't.
I mean, I've worked.
Anyway, let's.
We know what the issue
That's
is.
not standing orders.
When it's not standing orders, as you correctly say, thank you, sir. Right, back to where we were. So, last item. 4 meetings in general. All councils, a matter of mark of respect and courtesy, should stand to speak at full council meetings, and for members of the public to see who is speaking. I don't think that's a standing order, and I think that's an issue for the mayor. And we've pointed out that we know that there is a proposal now to purchase proper equipment, which would have 5 microphones around, and I think that will eliminate that. Now that's, I believe, on track for a December, is it? December trial?
December.
Yeah. And
Solution delivered.
Solution delivered. And I think we ought to see then, you made the point as well, Christina, that people sitting behind us can't see who's speaking. But if you've got a proper amplifier system, and and I spoke to him and said, it can be there, but you could actually have the amplifier back here, so people can hear.
Yes, I mean certainly you could have a speaker behind there that the microphones feed to, but we are still in the situation where the table arrangement
That's an issue
is
as well, which I did put in my report. We need to look at that as well. Okay, so I think this is not a standing order. And keeping with the council traditions, all councillors should be robed at civic events and functions. That's not a standing order. And all councillors should be wearing a business dress. I'll bring my tutu with me, including ties for men and only to be changed at the discretion of the mayor, in keeping with the professional look and standards of the council.
That's the
But that means I can't turn up in Highland regalia.
Can we simply?
You'd be trying, sorry.
I know.
I mean, can we simply make a reply saying we do not consider it appropriate for a dress code to be established in standing orders, and that the dress code, if required, should be at the discretion of the mayor?
I think that's a very polite way of saying it, yes.
Could I just make a point in terms of respect at the meeting? To be quite honest, I find it offensive that people use mobile phones when they come to a meeting. They're here for 2 hours. Your present company accepted, Christine.
my phones are all switched off, they won't ring.
No, but
filming.
I find it offensive, for people to be using their mobile phones and not respecting the meeting by giving their attention to other devices. I'm sorry, I just find
you're
it
absolutely, that brings up a point that there, I certainly know one person who's using a mobile phone is actually breaking the law, because he is reporting on part of a meeting. He's reporting, that's what's happening. He's reporting to another person as part of the meeting to get further instructions.
I don't know anything about that, but I just feel, to people, to say to respect the meeting, you need to wear a collar and tie. I think it's not what you wear. It's my parents taught us, your actions speak louder than your words. So your actions, what you do between meetings, and the way you behave, and the work that you do, and the stuff that you produce speaks for you. And it's nothing to do, in my mind, about your dress code. But if you're on a mobile phone and you're texting people while at a meeting, I think you're completely out of order and you should be asked to leave the chamber.
Okay, can I just...
To put it back.
Succinctly.
Stop sitting on the fence, Peter, please.
Can I just quote you something? For our that and our that, our toils obscure and our that, the rank is but the guinea's stamp, the man's the gold for our that.
For that.
Yeah.
I didn't come here to have poetry, but thank you.
One R Burns. I could go on. I actually have it here because it was actually read at the first opening of the Scottish Parliament, and it actually so apt political meetings.
Yeah.
Is a man's a man for our that. Right. So we have at last finished.
Shield there.
Yes, there was a slight problem. He did have a bit of a reputation. Right.
Can I just say, I've just made a slight modification to this 438, which says minutes shall include a summary record of public participation of a meeting if no copy of the speech is given.
Yes, the speech. Could you add the verb is after speech? That's good. Right, we've finished part one. That's the longest one. Now, let us see the next bit. Right, that's that. Now, I have some more comments, and then we'll come on to Claire's, which I haven't seen, but you've got.
I made some notes in the meeting.
I took notes as well.
Under 336.
Mm-hmm.
That was the table. I don't know if you want to go back to it now or you want to.
No. Well, I think it was relevant. What was it? just said it to make it clear.
She
It was
was
only a minor
saying council members.
Yes.
Council
Yes.
members.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a helpful point. Yeah, and similarly for the subcommittee, I think. Christina, yes?
I think committee members, it's members of that specific committee, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
Is that not what she meant?
She's,
the quorum is the number of councillors, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, yes.
From who are members of that.
Who are members of
or
that
councillors.
committee?
Yeah. She was trying to distinguish that actually if you had 3 councillors in the room and 2 of them were not members of that particular meeting, you could
Yeah.
in theory qualify for quorum.
Yes, it
Can I put it up at the top of the heading then, quorum?
no, I think it's committee members
Yeah.
because they've accepted the point that non-committee member councillors can sit in at a committee meeting but have no voting rights.
Yes.
But-
Yes.
Sorry, I think under the substitution system they would have.
No, they wouldn't have that. I don't think even substitutes have voting rights, according to now. I don't think so. I don't.
I can't remember.
Oh, they can't chair it. They can't chair the committee.
They
Yes,
can't
that's
share.
what they can't do, but I'm sure
So
they've got
maybe they
those
have
rights
voting.
if it's properly ordained as a substitute.
But in that case, they are a committee member.
Yeah, on that.
They're a committee
case.
member, so it may be
Yeah.
committee members.
Yeah.
The fact for council members. Yes, Christina?
I think there's still a case where you may have council members who are not members of a specific committee come along as observers, and they would not count towards the quorum.
that's
It's
right.
that
Yeah,
distinction, isn't it?
You've got, so it says for committee, perhaps we really do need to say committee members.
But they wouldn't. Not all committee members.
Well, it
Our
says
councillors.
in the first column here, council with voting rights.
Yes.
So,
Do it that way.
you know, so what it's saying is on the town council, there are 16 councillors who have voting rights.
Yeah.
On a committee, there are 9 councillors with voting rights.
Who
On a
are non-
subcommittee,
So
there are 5 from the committee.
all we need to add in, do we not, is with voting rights under quorum.
9 with voting rights.
Not in the
No,
actual.
no, in committee, 5.
Quorum of councillors with voting rights.
Yes, that's fine.
But under committee, would that not be the voting rights are the who are members of the committee?
No, that's not complicated.
No.
It's pretty clear.
It's having voting rights. I think is the determiner in terms of
Yeah, the quorum of councillors with voting rights sums it up perfectly. That's exactly what it is.
yeah.
And the only exception is the working group where it says 3 councillors or 2 councillors and a co-opted.
Yeah.
That's the only exception.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Well, that. Sorry, Christine.
I still think in this column, so where we've got committee, who has voting rights on a committee? Only the councillors who are members of that committee.
Yes.
So this wouldn't be 9 councillors, this would be 9 councillors who are members of the committee. Would it not?
You're right, but I'm
Do you think
comfortable
it's
enough
covered?
with the title at the top.
Yes.
Councillors with voting rights.
Yeah.
Covers it.
Okay. Right.
Let's hope we don't get someone being a bit devious and interpreting differently. But I think that's sufficient.
Right. Okay, folks. Moving on then. I had received a note from Nick Gray saying that but that's covered by the fact about deputy chairs. He explained why they were automatically the deputy chair of the rails.
The history around.
And Colin Wells came back with the same comment to me.
Yeah.
I think he may have shared it with you folks. I didn't receive Mark's.
Sorry. Going back to Claire's comments, she made a point that motions will only be accepted by the proper officer and the wording left unchanged.
Yes, this is correct.
Mm.
Where would you want to put that?
Well,
Well, we have a section about motions, haven't we?
We do?
yeah. No, I feel that, I mean, in the same way as we said that the town clerk should have the right to edit a contribution from a member of the public to ensure its legal compliance, I think the same proviso should apply
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that any amendment to a draft motion should be accepted by the proposer. I second it.
Without alteration, yeah. Sorry, motions, is it motion? Yes,
It could only be motions requiring notice, couldn't it?
yes. Those, the 611 is those that don't require a motion, that's 6-2. No, this is-
Written notice.
Ah, okay. So it's 624, isn't it, really? The proper officer, in consultation with the chair or conveners, only reject a motion if it lacks clarity, irrelevance, unlawful or improper subject or wording.
I think that's.
Yeah, but that's rejection of the motion.
That's rejection.
It's not alteration.
Lack of clarity or legibility, that's a bit... That just seems...
Well, lack of clarity is, legibility is perhaps not an issue now with everybody typing, but lack of clarity, do we know what they're saying is?
Wouldn't that apply to most... a lot of things, should we say? Christina?
Could it perhaps be reject or amend and maybe tag something on about consulting with the proposer?
I think the lack of clarity one is a very difficult one, because something may be crystal clear to me, but the rest of the world don't think the way I think. But it's very, you know, it's a jocular comment, but there's a lot of truth in it. One person's, you know, clarity is another person's lack of clarity.
Yes, but if you're wanting to people to vote for something, you need to convince them what it is exactly that you want.
So
I think we could go with your suggestion there, Christine. It may only reject or amend a motion.
Yeah.
And then put a comment up below, reject or amend.
624. This is for clarity.
In such cases, the proper officer shall agree with any changes, shall agree any changes
With the proposal.
and explain.
Well, we should agree.
I would sort of agree
Reasons
with
for rejection
No.
with the proposer.
these will mainly be on legal matters of legal compliance.
Yeah, but you know, if it says, look, this is not relevant to the term, they should come back to the proposer and say, look, we're rejecting it because it's not relevant to this meeting. It's just the courteous thing to do, isn't it?
Christina?
But I understand we have actually had some motions that have been rejected simply because there's too much business on the agenda. Has that not happened?
Well, that's
Is
fine.
that
You
somewhere
go
else?
back and then it's agreed it's got to be put
Then it's
on the
got-
next agenda.
And-
or
and
whatever,
that's-
you know.
And that's precisely why we want an action list.
Mm.
And if it, I mean, we wasted 10 minutes with 2 or 3 people saying, well, this was on the agenda, where is it?
Yes.
This was on the agenda, where is it?
Mm.
And time again, and it was becoming...
Yes.
Well, we're talking about motions here. Is it motions or agenda items.
Okay, you're right. You look a bit uncomfortable.
Well, I just want to be precise.
No, I meant physically uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, yes, no,
You're
no,
right,
I think,
okay. We can have a break if we need a break,
Yeah.
please don't.
I need to be home for 1 o'clock, but I just.
Okay, so we'll
Stop for 2 minutes.
stop for 2 minutes.
Quick stretch.
Right. Oh, dear. In Martin's absence, but won't make any decisions on that.
Sorry, can I just say finally, one of the other things that Claire mentioned was to clarify the services under 666. You remember that
Yes,
I did
you're
have
right,
a
you're
list
right.
of the
Yes,
services.
you're right.
I can input that list when I send this draft document out.
Right.
Remember, we had the list of all of the services that KCC and
That's right.
DDC provide. A list of services to report shall be confirmed
Yes.
by the proper officer. So,
Now, yes. List of services, okay. By list of services from each council, should we say?
yeah,
From each council, and that clarifies it. It's not the things that Sue Chandler happens to be in the cabinet member for one thing. It's the totality. We've just jumped on. I think that was the other big thing. I am conscious of time.
sorry, I'm just looking at her notes, so we've made a note of that there. She was also wanted us to spell out the difference between a subcommittee and a working group.
Yeah.
And I think a subcommittee, as I tried to explain to her the other night,
Yeah.
was it could be a standing
Yes.
committee, whereas a working group is a task
Yeah.
orientated.
Should we have said that after this we should be then dealing with sort of terms of reference and general sort of standing orders for committees. Is that better placed in that area?
I think it probably is.
It needs to be clarified, but
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
needs to
sure
be
it needs to be in council
Okay,
standing
well,
orders.
I'm just picking up.
Yes, no, you're right to do that. Trying to think.
And the other point that she made was about minutes brought to the Summit Town Council meeting with recommendations, and she wanted clarification on the best way to bring those things through, and she talked about the tourism.
Point being.
Well,
How does it work?
how would you promptly deal with things within a week, something that's raised at their Heritage and Town Council meeting?
Mhm.
How do you bring that forward to the council the following week?
Which is to a certain extent something that we've just discussed about 20 minutes ago under 436. Remember I said these specific reports.
Yeah.
Do we want to put them in, can we put them in standing orders? So what will we say in standing orders for this? That committees may submit reports direct to the council. May submit reports direct to the council for consideration at the next meeting, with the minutes. Right?
Sorry. There's me going with that.
Okay.
Better take, because it's not right.
Yeah.
Either.
How do we want to do that? Sorry,
It's
I'm using the Scottish
No,
word
no,
out
it's
with.
a difficult nut to crack.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, so for example, on the IT working group, stuff we take into the finance committee first. And then if you want to, but if you then need to go to STC, which we do, you've got your 2 steps. But then you've got the lead-in times for the STC, which might then mean you can't actually go to the next STC. You might have to go to the one after. So there is something there, but I can't quite crack it, because if you've got something really important to a committee,
You
you
should
want to
have
go
a
to the
fast
next
track.
meeting of the town council, but the next meeting of town council might be a week away. You've hit the deadline for your submitting.
Christine, did you want to make a... sorry, I cut across you.
No, it's fine. I mean, sort of from observation, I can see that it can be a painfully slow process from when a decision is made at committee or working group, and to actually bring that as a motion requiring a decision within full council or longer. And maybe it's a case of if something happens, if the resolution is passed in a committee or working group, then maybe that is, as has been suggested by the chair, that could actually go into a report that is then submitted, rather than it have to be delayed by the minute checking process. It's just an idea.
I thought the reply given in when we had the meeting on Monday was perfectly adequate. If they need to get something to the next full council meeting, they make a special report on it.
Well, it suggests to me then we need to put another standing order in, which is really, this isn't the word, but it's, if an urgent decision is made to a sub or a full committee, there has to be direct access to the council via a report, via a very focused report. And it's got to be focused though. Would that be the sort of thing we want?
So specific.
So are we talking specifically about committee to town council relationship?
I'd say committee, subcommittee or committee. Well, I submit, well.
So let's not try and boil the ocean. Do we not think that maybe a really important issue would be a transfer between committee and town council? If we do, then surely we just can tightly say that by the chair of both those bodies,
The sub and the...
between a committee and town council, have the opportunity to agree that you can take an urgent report outside
While
the
we're
normal.
doing it?
Yeah. It's about, it's about intelligence and maturity of enabling two. Committees are important, town council is important. Those two should surely have the ability to do that transfer in an urgent circumstance.
Right. Can I also just say though that surely that process should apply initially to the subcommittee getting the committee to agree, because something like this could be a subcommittee issue.
It could. As I say, back to my point, I'm not trying to boil the ocean. I'm trying to at least come up with one gap. That can
Well,
be
the principle could apply. I mean, if a matter is urgent and important, it's got to be both. It's urgent and important, and you've got to use both words. It can't just be urgent, or it's got to be urgent and important, that the chair of the committee and the chair of the council to agree whether to take this forward to the next council meeting, regardless of agenda, a minute approval. Sorry.
We did used to have a situation where the minutes were produced from a committee meeting mid-month. The minutes would be produced, and recommendations requiring decisions would actually then go with the minutes to full council before going round to the next monthly committee meeting. So they'd go to full council, but the only people voting as to the accuracy were the committee members within the full council meeting. And what that meant is that actually that was a prompter route, because that recommendation could then actually be discussed and then perhaps resolved within the full council meeting. But what has happened, I've noticed, is a change has occurred whereby the minutes from a committee go to the next committee, so it will leapfrog over the full council meeting, go to the next committee meeting to be accepted, and then go to the next council. So you've it's actually lengthened the time scale.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think the last point you made was exactly the point that Claire was making, that she had to miss a council meeting, as it were, a full council meeting, because she had to wait for the next committee meeting before the minutes were approved. And I mean, I think the idea that the committee chair, if there was a mandate from the committee, could go to the mayor and say, we need to discuss this urgently, should be adequate. It shouldn't have to wait for the next approval of the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, can I suggest, under the structure of the council, we talk about the committees. 3.1 is committees, 3.2 is removal and changes to the committee, 3.3 is appointment of non-councillors. I think maybe we should introduce a 3.4 to do with the transfer or cascading of information between committees.
Okay. Could I ask?
I'm sorry, and finally I need to go in 5 minutes.
I was going to say, you then indicated earlier you need to leave. Can we just make a decision then, folks? Are we going to have another meeting next week, around about this time? Colin has said, has asked for a full copy of the thing, and wants to add some points. And I think we've got to pay a lot of attention to that, because he did a lot of work in 2020, 21 and 22.
Yes.
And there may be some points that we've missed. I think we at least need to consider that, and there may be other points, not everybody's communicated so far. Mark has communicated, but I think it's mainly saying, I don't agree with a lot of that we've talked about today, and we would be in broad agreement.
Yeah.
So, are we all going to be here next week? When do you start your jury duty?
So and they should call a meeting for 6:30 in the evening. I'm not going to be there next week.
What do people want to do?
I would need to leave by very latest 12:30 next week, but I could come back.
So you will be correct.
So if we go back to 10:30, my other engagement was Banjacks this morning for other reasons. Would 10:30 be would you be available for 10:30?
Yeah, I think so, believe so, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll do it for 10:30. We will note your absence on.
But of course, by taking up that responsibility that I'm doing, there's always a possibility that I might not be needed on the day, so I might. So it starts from Monday.
It starts from Monday. Oh, you could be in a long
Or
trial.
equally, I could be not needed. So we just don't know until it's over.
Okay, fine. Peter, thank you for that. Could I just ask you, do you think of some wording then for 3.4, as we've just discussed?
I've just put the title in.
Yeah.
With some question marks.
Okay. If I can get my memory stick back before you go.
Yes, I have saved a copy of this document as it is in your work in progress.
As well.
In your web file.
But you've got a copy as well for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very helpful. Do we need to cover any further items today?
Don't think so.
Right. Okay, well, I'm going to see if Jill is in, because I think something's going crazy.
Are we finished?
We have,
just
yes,
let me check.
Yes.
All done?
All done, yeah.
Right. End of meeting. Thank you very much.